When you discovered the law of attraction, you started to believe anything was possible. Life got better, much better. Now you want more, but it's not working. That's where the Manifest It Now show comes in. If you've been waiting for someone who can teach you the practical application to manifest quicker and easier while having more, turn the volume up, because the dynamic duo, Cassie Parks and Ginny Gain, are ready to teach you how to live the law of attraction like they do. It's time to laugh and learn.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Manifest It Now. I'm here with Cassie Parks.
And I'm here with Ginny Gain.
Cass and I know I usually always say extra special episode, but this is extra special. This is a once in a lifetime episode.
It is once in a lifetime episode.
We're going to talk about a law of attraction wedding.
I'm so excited. I know I say that, but I'm so excited to talk about your wedding because it was so awesome.
It was awesome. It was so pretty darn perfect.
Yes, and you're married now.
I'm married.
Yay.
That's
okay,
right.
How does it feel? I know our listeners are dying. They want to know.
I mean, right now or the entire thing? Because I was telling, Lisa was asking this the other day, and I'm like, and I gave her, I didn't have words for it. I'm like, it feels like this. And I my hands made a circle. And I'm like, how to explain it other than that? But if I had to use words, it's I feel a sense of incredibly deep excitement. I've never been so excited that it doesn't end, that it just keeps going. I'm so excited for all of it, for all parts, for that it's endless and infinite. And I'm there's a sense of just some element. This is why I keep doing this with my hands in the air, this rounded thing of deeper or fuller happiness or groundedness,
yes.
Something like that. And so it's really cool to have the balance of those two. And I've talked about this before, and it's just in a different way, in a different area of life, the excitement at the same time as the groundedness. And so, yeah, that feels really exciting. And both Lisa and I are saying all the time, oh my gosh, I love you so much, or this is so exciting, or this is just so good. And yeah, so it's all good.
I love it.
When people call me Mrs. Gain, it doesn't vibe with me yet, and we haven't had the introduction of oh, hey, this is my wife. We haven't had that yet. Somebody did text me once and say, tell your wife this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my wife. Yeah. So that was amazing. But I don't remember, or do you remember when way back when this started and I was we talked about how she never felt like my girlfriend. It was just always my wife. And so
yes.
the whole label name thing does actually feel very familiar and very comfortable.
I love that.
But yeah, I know. I'm excited for that part where it's this is my wife, Lisa. Yeah, that'll be good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have, because I think a lot of people do, and the answer might be no, but did you have a expectation that it would feel different, or did you have an expectation that marriage would change anything, or a thought, or anything? Expectation is probably a strong word, but
I'll preface this with my whole ideas about marriage and commitment, as you guys know, changed 180 degrees when I met Lisa. So there's a before Lisa and an after Lisa. So
did we talk about that on the show?
I don't know if we have. I know I've kind of mentioned it, but everything, so any expectations I had before about marriage, there was tons of resistance, and I didn't even know if that's what I wanted, and I wasn't clear about that, and I was just walls up when the idea of spending my life with one person came up. And then I met Lisa, and it was walls went down, 100% down there, all around. I had zero doubts. No, there was it felt, this is what I was saying, like it feels exciting. It went from feeling terrifying to feeling exciting and like something I 100% wanted.
Yes.
And so the expectation in terms of like this, my expectation was that nothing would change. So, and it was something like she's kind of expressed to me before, like, do you think it's going to change? And I'm like, no, not at all. Like, I don't, other than just getting deeper, continually getting deeper. And so no, I didn't have any expectation that it would be different. But I mean, it's only been a few days. We'll see what happens. Yeah. What about you? Do you have feelings like from right where you are now that things would change after marriage, getting married?
No, because I think I'm similar to you, right? When I get married, it's just the continuation, right? Because there's even like, I mean, it's such an interesting concept for me because I am like, because marriage is so what you put into it. Like it is just a piece of paper, you know? And yet there's always something that it's what both parties put behind that piece of paper. And I think that when both parties are clear, what does that mean? Right. Then it's different. And for me, it's very similar to you. Like it's not, nothing changes. It's just sort of like this official moment. You know, we just set it in front of everyone else, what maybe we say to each other, or we're just continuing. And it is about that deeper and that depth. And it's just a chance to go deeper and to say, I want to go deeper out loud. Right. Which is interesting because I feel like people like you and I, we say that all the time. That's the way we live our life. And so it's interesting to think about it in a moment where there's this commitment to go deeper. And yet that's exactly for you, I think, and for me, what it will be is it's the piece of paper is the commitment to go deeper. And so, you know, nothing changes, but it just gets deeper and better.
Yeah. I love, there's two really good things to pull out here in terms of when we're manifesting in general. So Cass and I talk all the time about it's not the actual event, but the meaning you give to it. So marriage in general, it is a piece of paper physically, but what the significant part of how it plays out in your life is what you assign, what you choose to assign to it. And that's the most important part. That's what makes it what it is. And so this is like so deliberate creation, right?
Yes.
And then the second part of this, like kind of like proclaiming it or announcing it or like owning it. We talk about that all the time of how like you can only fully step into it when you fully claim it. And so that in a way, when you're saying your vows and you're, you know, doing that is almost representative of that part of that manifesting process. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think this ties into this right now, but I was thinking this morning about like your ceremony versus another ceremony that I've done versus sort of like this general ceremony and I was thinking to myself, how do people ever use like the same words for two ceremonies?
Right.
Because it's so
everything is unique. Yeah.
Everything. And when you treat it as, I think that's one of the ways that problems get created in marriage is that when you use it as this general outline, this general template, that doesn't work because you're agreeing to things that maybe you didn't want, or you're not being fully conscious of what you're agreeing to. You're not choosing what you want to agree to, you know? And so I think when it's really the most beautiful and the most sacred and is about depth is when it's really like what you two want it to be and being clear about that. And that I can't, especially like officiating.
It's so beautiful.
Wedding.
It's like getting me all choked up.
Oh, yeah. Like you have to be clear. And I think that's if I had to give one piece of advice from standing up there with you two to somebody who wants to deliberately create this, it's that you have to first be clear about what you want. And it's the same advice as always, but you have to first be clear about what you want. And you have to be with someone who's also clear and it's the same things, and create that together, right? Versus taking and putting any sort of ideal of marriage of that's always been, right?
I love this. I want to keep talking about it because it's so important. This is just one area where we can get a little more specific about, you don't have to accept the quote unquote agreements that everybody else or anybody else has made about marriage. So you get to 100% define what it means for you and in what ways it's important for you. And that's the exciting part, is like, there's no rules here. And this, Lisa and I have fun with this because people will say, like, there was a couple comments at the over the weekend about like, oh, you know, your freedom's over now. And that doesn't even like fit in our realm. Like, we're like, both of us are like, we are more free. Like, we are freeing each other through this. That's the agreement we're making with each other and with this idea. We do not play by traditional rules. Why? Why would we ever create that, you know?
Right?
Why would you step into anything that's going to reduce your freedom? That just does not make sense.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why would you put energy in or choose that? Or, yeah. Oh, I love that.
So this is great. Like, so if you're in a marriage now, or you're about to get into one, or you have been in one, or anything, and we don't even have to do marriage, you can just do relationship. Like, this is a great time or opportunity to just sit down with first yourself, and then you and your partner, and what do we want this to be about, you know? Like, what are the agreements we're making? I guess it is kind of like vows. Is the whole point, the whole purpose of vows is to kind of like define this way that you're going to have your relationship.
Yeah. And it's just so important, because you're right. And I love that you want to go back to you bringing up, like, there's a couple comments, there's a couple things, because most people don't choose. Like, most people don't go into this decision, their ceremony, their marriage, as consciously as you have. And so they took those old things and they just made that. And that's like something you want to be super careful and conscious about, because you don't want to create something that was someone else's.
Yes. You don't have to take what somebody else said into what you're creating.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so great. So did you guys have conversations about what marriage means to you?
Yes, definitely. On many occasions, definitely.
Like, okay, so how many do you think? Because I think this is good for people to hear.
Oh, I don't know. If I had to put a number, I mean, it weaves in and out of all conversations, but like specifically probably around 10 conversations.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, throughout the year.
Yeah, because it takes that. Right? Because you have a conversation, and you can tell me, you can give your feedback on this. You have a conversation, it's like anything else. Like, okay, this is what I'm thinking now. This is what it is. And you hear the other person, and then in that moment you grow and change, and you're like, you can see more. And so it changes, right. It gets deeper, it gets more, it gets clearer, you know? And so it's not a one-time conversation. I think that's the important thing.
It is not. No. And even we sometimes just need confirmation that we're still in the same place, that we're still on the same page. Because yes, you can have a lot of like nonverbal communication with your partner in terms of like you're both feeling it, you're feeling in love, you're feeling you're there. But in things like this, exchanging words and making sure those words mean what each person thinks they do is important. Because as I've learned throughout relationships, so this is a great example. Something I always wanted was, you know, someone who makes the relationship the priority, who wants, like, my relationship, second to my alignment is like my relationship with my partner and growing in love with that. And I wanted someone who also felt that way. And I've had partners say to me, yes, the relationship is the most important. I'm like, oh, awesome, great, we're on the same page. And then the demonstration of that through life experience, we learn what that means for them is different through their actions versus what it means to me is different through my actions. And so you have a conversation, you have life experience, you have a reflection, and then you have another conversation. And so it gets clearer and clearer and clearer, and to yourself and to the two of you. So yeah, that's just kind of like how that process goes with everything. That's just one example.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I want to jump back for a second. I know this is kind of going off topic, but those comments that you make about marriage, I know a whole bunch of you guys loved our butt episode. That has been super powerful. This is another one of those little things when, if you're making sarcastic comments, so like I know people only say those things to get a laugh, and they can be funny, but I also think there's an underlying theme to it that we don't give enough attention or power acknowledgement to, is like what that actually means. Like you're actually saying that's what you believe. And so maybe yes and maybe no, but check yourself. Like when you're saying a joke like that, is it because you believe that? Are you putting more of that out there in the world? Or is there something else to it? Because there's lots of funny ways to be, lots of ways to be funny without the kind of negative undertones, carrying those negative undertones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one that comes up with, like, I mean, there's so many in marriage, but.
Oh, right. Yeah, freedom for sure.
Ball and chain. Like,
yeah.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't understand. Like why would anyone sign up for that? If that's what you think any part of that is, why would you sign up for it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you make a good point. Like it's what's behind your words. And so if you've ever thought that, and you might just want to like check in with yourself, like, okay, how do I feel about that? Do I believe it can be different? Right? Do I believe that getting married could actually give me freedom?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
That's what it is. Getting married adds to my life and adds to my love and gives me freedom.
Yes. I get it, but I think you should explain it a little deeper for our listeners.
In terms of how it gives me freedom? Okay, this is amazing because it's the first time, honestly, I've experienced this, and it's so amazing. But so having coming into the relationship with my own alignment and feeling very confident and secure, independent, in love with my life, and I want to clarify, I'm not like at the top. Okay, so I was all those things, but it's not like there's always room to grow. There's always room for more. And Lisa coming into my life, being in that same place, adds to that. So it's like you're adding two high energies together, and then they go higher together or go more, they expand more together and with more intensity and all of that. And so if you're thinking in an energetic term, how it frees me is because for whatever reason, I could just read you guys my vows and you would understand. It's like her own alignment and her viewing of me like pulls out the best parts of me. Like it inspires all of the goodness in me to come out. And that experience and this is why I have Live Your Truth, like the experience of expressing your truth, which is at the core love, is the most amazing feeling in the world. So the love I feel within me is amplified by her presence. And that's freedom. That's like, this is the vibrational kind of explanation of what's happening. And the more, does that make sense, Cass?
Yeah. Okay.
And the other part of that, the freedom that we choose is more of I'm totally free to be the full expression of myself. There's no conditions, there's no limitations. And the same with her. And that oftentimes, and I'm sure I'm about to learn for all the people that have been married for years, you know, you learn more and more how to practice this unconditionalness as you go through life with your person. And you get to practice that because we have a way, no matter how hard we try and say, I want it to be this way, and we get to want our desires, there's going to be things that come into your life through the people that are closest to you that don't fit with exactly what you prefer and you want. Because we're all individuals. That's like how it's supposed to be. And so there's this, you get to practice your focus on being like, they don't need to meet this condition of mine in order to get my full love and acceptance and support. And I'm just so excited to have that and practice it. And there's like, it feels that you're so liberated when somebody loves you like that. I was talking to a friend, she commented on a post, one of the wedding posts, and she has also found this kind of love in her life where she's like, it's amazing to be loved for who I am. And I'm like, I know. And this kind of, there's no one's trying to change you, and you just get to be you. And it's not just love, but no one's trying to change you, because I think a lot of people can say, oh yeah, they can do that and I'll still love them, you know, but I won't necessarily like them or like being around them, or I don't know, but there's those kind of fine tuning things, that comes into play with that.
So awesome. Yeah. And so that's like freedom to even be more of you. It's freedom to take more risks. It's freedom to move and grow quicker, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, because that's the thing I wanted to say. Wait, one more thing.
Yeah. Go.
What comes, so before you can have that freedom, before you can find this love, this is my perspective, you have to be willing to be free. You have to be willing to be yourself. Because you can't be loved for who you are until you actually are who you are. And that comes from you. And so this idea of like, no one loves me for who I am, I would 100% challenge that you're probably not being you're not fully like being yourself or fully accepting yourself in those ways.
Yes, absolutely.
That, 100% happened along the way, along the journey. Okay, can we talk more about like the wedding and because I feel like there was some important parts in terms of like manifesting a really like easy, perfect wedding. And you guys heard me talk about it, and even some of my clients too, in terms of when I was preparing, and they're like, oh, how's everything going? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. Everything's falling into place. And a few of you know the backstory of that. I actually got the dress I wore a week before the wedding.
Right?
Yeah. And there was some good like manifesting, allowing, creating elements to that part. But one of my favorite things was, so my mom, hi, if you're listening, is much more concerned about details than I am. And so you can imagine from her perspective, planning the wedding and the details, she's, has a million questions, and I really don't know the answers, And we got so many comments about people saying, wait a minute, you haven't even been to the venue yet? How are you going to know this? How are you going to know that? I'm like, I don't know. It's going to work out. We're showing up, a day and a half early. We'll figure it out. And so, and I actually felt relaxed. Like there was maybe a couple points of stress along the way, but for the most part, I really did not stress about anything happening. The dress was probably the biggest stress point. And Cassie can vouch for that. Like it was really just fall into place.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest elements to that process is the fact that I knew, like I was so grounded. The most important thing to me was marrying Lisa. Like, and having that ceremony, that connection, and even, me, Lisa, and Cassie, at that time, having my brother beside me, having Lisa's person beside her, that was the most, having the people I loved there. These are all the elements that were like so important. Those are the details I cared about. And when I made that the most important thing, the rest of the details didn't matter. And so it gave them the space to be perfect. So I really didn't control them. Yeah.
I want to highlight that. Gave them the space to be perfect. So when you pick the details that are important to you, and they all can't be important. It just energetically, if you're trying to control and make 100 details perfect, it's this is not going to work. But if you put your energy into the 5, which if we count it, it's probably about the ones that you cared about, 5 details that matter, there's space for the other 95 to rise up to that level and become perfect.
Yeah.
It's, vibrationally, if those 5 are amazing and perfect and exactly what you want, all the other details are going to rise to that.
Yeah. And even to the day of the wedding, when Cassie and I, if you caught the Facebook Live we did in our group, it was pouring rain, a few hours before the wedding. And people were telling me all day, oh, the weather this, or the weather that. And I'm like, I had so much trust. I actually did not feel worried. And there was only one time when Lisa was like, oh, maybe we should move the speakers. And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. We picked our location. I want to get married there. And I just feel like that's going to be fine. It's going to work out. And then, we started to get updates. Oh, well, is the rain supposed to stop 10 minutes before the wedding? Oh, this is supposed to clear, going to pass right over us. And I'm like, great, guys, good. But nobody else's thoughts or opinions about it even touched how I actually felt about it. And I don't know how to better describe that, but I didn't, not that I didn't care that if we were married in the rain, but still those details didn't matter. I knew, and I knew no matter what, it would all be perfect. And that's what makes an experience so rich. And that's what makes it so flowy. It's just that knowing, that consistency of that knowing, going through the whole experience. And it cleared up. I mean, it was wet outside, but the sun came out and we had a beautiful ceremony.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to highlight this because I think we get asked this question a lot, and this is a great example. So everyone always wants to know, how do I not let anyone else affect me? Right? This is how you get clear on what's you're 100% certain of the things you need to be certain of. For Jenny, that's the details, right? Whether there was rain or no rain, those details that were important to you, the 5, were gonna be true. 100% perfect, right? You'd be with Lisa, it'd be the 3 of us, Adam would be next to you, Lisa's person, and everybody that you loved would be there, right?
Yeah.
Or that was super important to be there. And so the rain didn't matter. It didn't even you didn't need to have a feeling about it.
Exactly.
Because it was,
it was deliberate. In those moments, I deliberately chose not to have a feeling about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
I want to highlight too, I wasn't just that day that I started focusing on what was important. It had been 6 months I'd been knowing and feeling and building that strength of what's important to me. So that's why it was so easy on that day. That's the cumulative effect of this stuff, guys, is that's why you practice it. And then you're in an experience and you're like, oh, that was so easy. Or it was easy to hold that vibe. So, when we decide we want something and then a week later someone tells us their opinion and we're like, how do we not let other people's opinions affect us? We're like, oh, just keep focusing on what you want. And then, and it will get less and less. They will affect you less and less and less.
Yes. Which is so funny. There was a couple times and people are like, well, traditionally, and I could just watch your face. Oh
yeah.
This is the way it's supposed to be.
Then even the next morning, and it was we didn't sign the paper till the next morning, and I just like rebel against people telling me what to do, and so traditionally it's supposed to be like this, and I'm like, well, I get to choose whoever I want,
right?
Even though that's what I wanted. But one of my favorite comments was when she actually said to Lisa, like after, she's like, you know what, you guys were right. She's like, the details weren't important, and it was beautiful. And there was so many people that said, this is my favorite wedding. This is the best wedding I've been to. You know, it was so relaxed and so fun, and everybody had a good time, and everyone connected, and there was all these different options. And you know, guys, like the chairs didn't match. They weren't pretty colored. There was some tables in and out of the reception. There was like, all those finer details that traditionally happen at weddings generally weren't happening. I was in my wedding dress putting up lights. Lisa and I were putting up lights. Oh, we forgot to do this. We were putting it up. But we still got that feeling. Everybody had an amazing time, including the caterers who joined in on our party.
Oh my gosh, they had such a great time, and they were so awesome. And like, this is another, I love this example, but so because I had picked up the flowers, so I knew that there were flowers for the cake table. And like, I knew you didn't care whether they got there or not, but like, I knew they were still on the table at like when we're getting ready to walk down. And so I see the caterer just hanging out. I'm like, hey, are you busy right now? He's like, no, we're just waiting for you guys. I'm like, oh, can you do me this favor? Go put out the flowers for me? He's like, yeah, I could do that. I can. And it's just like, there's always something there, right? Like if you just let everything else rise to perfection, it just gets handled. It gets taken care of. It doesn't have to be like manhandled or, you know, like bulldozed or forced, you know?
Another example I like is how I had so many people ask me, what's the menu going to be? What are we eating? And I remember choosing it when we chose it, but it was like months ago. And I'm like, I don't remember. And that's always my answer. Like, I don't know, though there's going to be food up until the day of the wedding. You know, people were asking me, what are we going to eat tonight? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's going to be good. And people loved it. Like this is so good. Oh my God, the food was so good. The food was so good. I'm like, I know, it's great. Right. And so you can still have a great experience without the details. And my friends were teasing me as this conversation was happening of how, we just knew where we were going at what time, and that's it. We didn't know anything else, and we were just going to show up. And I'm like, I love that. And that's how you eventually train your friends.
It is. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but it's going to be great. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be awesome. Oh, I love it. I want to share like one of the, I'm pretty sure this was spontaneous. You can tell me if it wasn't, but I think at weddings, like one of the details, right? And there's generally like this strict plan, and this has to happen at this time, and this has to happen, because if you want to fit in all the traditions and all that, you know, whatever. My favorite, like, it just happened was the bouquet toss. It was like, we all went to take a picture, and so everyone's there, and you happen to like get up to the top first, and somebody was like, you should throw the bouquet now.
And I was like, okay, great.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Lisa said one of the funniest parts of the whole weekend was when my father tried to stand in the bouquet toss group. Was yelling, Richard, you get out of the bouquet. You can't stand there. You're married. It was amazing.
It was amazing. And it was so easy and fun. And sometimes those traditions are fun, and sometimes they feel forced. And it was just like, we're all like everyone was almost already there. And it was like 30 seconds or a minute, but it was beautiful and fun and amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And still had that traditional element.
Yes, exactly. And the same thing kind of happened with the first dance, because I think up until the day before, I wasn't sure that we were doing one, and somebody asked us, and I said, no, we're not doing one. And then somebody else said, like, I think Lisa might have said, I think we're doing one, or I forget the back and forth. But anyway, so we decided one and we picked a song, and then we were finished coming back from after the ceremony and cocktails, and then it was like, oh, is now the time for the first dance? And one person was telling me now's the time. Another person was telling me it's not the time, like the caterer and the versus the photographer. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Yeah, sure. And so like, Lisa puts on a song and we get dance. And it was just that kind of like very natural, easy flow. And I think that creates, well, when Lisa and I both feel that way, it creates that kind of environment for everybody else to just enjoy themselves. That's why we're here. You know, we're here to be in joy and celebrate love. And it was the best.
It was awesome. It was the best.
Yeah. I also loved how it was, and this was definitely intentional, is like and Cass asked us this before, like, what do you want it to be about? And we wanted it to be sacred and like connecting. And that's why we didn't have just a day. We had like a weekend, and we're like, we want quality time with the closest people to us. And that's what it was. And that's what we got. And so that was really amazing, that part of it.
That was really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling someone, I always love when weddings where you make new friends, and I made lots of new friends.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, I feel like all my people know each other now, which is so fun.
Yeah. It is so fun.
Faces to the name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have any other favorite parts before we wrap up?
Let's see. Dance. Just, I mean, my favorite part is like, it's so true. Like, the stuff doesn't matter, or the details that don't matter don't matter. And my favorite is that you and Lisa are so honest about the things you don't care about that it makes it so easy. I think so often people think they should care, right? And so somehow they get that should in their mind. Like, I should care about exactly when the first dance is. I should care exactly about this or that. And so, you know, we're just finalizing the little bits of the ceremony that I needed to know. And it's like, do you want this or this? And one of you would be like, I don't care. And the other's like, I want this. And so that's what we did. Right. And excuse me. So many people often get caught up in that they should care, or that it should be contemplated. And it's like, no, like, if you don't care, you don't have to care. Like, if it doesn't, and it's not that you don't care. I think some people take that to be a different thing.
A negative thing, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. If it doesn't matter, if it's not going to enhance your joy, it doesn't have to be a decision. It can just be whatever it is. And you can let it rise up. It's going to be my new favorite thing. You can let the rest of the details rise up and be perfect. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It was just all amazing. I loved your impromptu bachelorette party too. Good. I did love that. Yeah.
You love the what?
Impromptu bachelorette party. on the dock. On the dock.
Water, yeah. This is our bachelorette party.
Yeah, I did. And I loved how, like, it's those, like, the traditional, and I know you didn't, like, necessarily care if there was traditional stuff, but I'm saying this for the people that want, like, all the other stuff, but are like, well, but if I let go of all these things, how do I get that? Like, because it just happened, and it was super fun, and we're out there, like, having a couple drinks, sitting in the sun, getting in the water, talking about love and life, and, like, laughing, and it was the perfect bachelorette party.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And the other part of just going back to the should thing for a second, is giving your partner the space to care about what they care about. Like, let it be okay that they don't care about this. Like, that was huge for both in the process of planning it. Is the thing, I was allowed to care about what I cared about, and Lisa was allowed to care about what she cared about. And sometimes they lined up and sometimes they didn't. And sometimes neither of us cared. And so, but I think that comes up a lot, is why don't you care? Why don't you have an opinion about this? Like, just because this is important to me, why don't, I want to know. It's like somehow we want our person to care about what we care about. And yes, in some things that's important if you're defining, values, going back to the beginning of what we were talking about, but details, it's like, give your person the freedom to, like, care about what they want to care about, what they naturally care about. Mm-hmm.
And understand, I think what you're saying as well is, because someone doesn't care, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean you don't matter, or the thing doesn't matter, right? It doesn't mean that the wedding or the marriage doesn't matter. It's just that thing they don't care about. And that's actually amazing. Because again, like going back to just, 100 details, if you're you're putting energy into 100 details, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And if you have 5 that you can put fully your energy into, they're going to be amazing, and it's going to pull everything else up. And that's the same. Like, if you want your partner to care about everything, there's going to be diminished energy in other areas. Mm-hmm. But if you understand that, like, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Like,
and it doesn't say anything about you, that their love for you. I remember going through it when I wanted, for some reason I wanted sparklers at my wedding, and Lisa was like, okay, fine, whatever. And they arrived, and I had like got these little tags and made with our name and the date.
Cute.
And I was so excited that when they arrived, and there was not the same excitement from Lisa. And for a moment, like, I went into my little, like, I sulked a little bit, like, you don't care, And then, because I was like, I just took it personally. And then, it took me a second, I snapped out of it. But that is the tendency. They're not saying they don't love you. They're not saying they don't care about you or the wedding or anything. But you're just giving them the freedom. Like, then I just let myself be excited, and that was great. Then my whole experience is great. And then she actually gets more excited from me being excited. And so it's just in that another little area where you get to take responsibility for how you're feeling and what's important to you.
And still do it. If you love it, do it.
Yes. Like, that's huge. Yes.
As my favorite things, like Jenny's out there putting the just married on the car. Lisa could, really care less. It seems like a lot of work to her. She thinks we should just use shoe polish. And that's all awesome, because Jenny is still having Jenny and I are like, let's peel the things off and let's put the sign and let's get it going, because we love that. It matters to us, and it matters to Jenny.
Yes. I mean, I feel like that's one of the most foundational things that makes us have such a amazing relationship, is that we give each other the space to get excited about what we're excited about, and we don't let the other person's thoughts or feelings about it diminish our own enjoyment of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because when you're happy as an individual, you have a happier relationship. So when that doesn't, you don't let that she doesn't want to put the just married sign on, diminish your joy. You get to remain joyful instead of being miserable and lowering that vibration and that space and that feeling. You get to be joyful, and so you come into it joyful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just smiling now.
Aw, I love it.
We got a few honks on the way back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
So cute. And I remember you ordering every one of those things, and it was so fun. Yeah.
Yes, I had so much fun doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what's important, because you want, it's the fun and it's the excitement that I mean, there's 2 types of memories that can be created, right? The really crappy ones, the emotional, the stress, the unhappy stuff, or the happy, fun, excited. And so your wedding day is really going to be a accumulation of all of those memories leading up to that. And if they were all stressful and miserable, they're all the day's not likely to turn out amazing.
Exactly. That's a great analogy for anything you're manifesting, guys. If take it big picture to your life. If you're having days full of, the journey's full of little stressful things, the end result's going to match that. If you're working towards something, it's all the little parts, how you're doing it along the way. That's what's going to compose. I forget the exact word, but compose the experience that you're creating.
Accumulation?
Yes. Compose? It's an accumulation of all the little things that all the little energies and thoughts you've put into it. I like that.
And when you take responsibility for creating your own stuff, like Jenny, getting excited about like the mint to be mints, which I loved.
I love too.
Right? And you're so excited, like being excited, sending pictures like along, and you take responsibility for that's my job, is to create my own excitement and happiness along the way. You get to have a happy, excited experience when it comes to the culmination of the event and your life, when we're applying it to life. Yeah.
I feel like I could talk about this forever. There's so many good little things that all like come out of, and we didn't even dive into other types of like friendships, family relationships that all kind of come out at events and gatherings and stuff. But yeah, it was amazing. And I've got to tell so many people that it's been perfect, which I was consciously be like, oh, this is my story.
Yeah.
because that's how I felt.
Yes. It was perfect. It was amazing. It was perfect for everyone, I feel like.
Yeah. It felt like that. That was the feedback.
Yeah. Which was awesome. It was even like Jenny didn't stress when she got a call about the flowers that weren't picked up yet.
Half an hour before we had to pick up flowers, and the lady called me, and I was like, oh, like I didn't stress at all. I was just knew it would work out.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is like,
you trusted everyone around you.
But practicing that, like, I know it's going to work out vibe for the past 6 months is what made it work out.
Right. Well, 6 months plus a lot of years.
Plus 30 years.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you practice that, like, and especially consciously practice it before something that has a higher, there's more energy in it, right? Because it's just, certain events have more energy. It's just, and that's weddings, right? Because it's a big deal. It's big. It's a culmination of a lot of things. It's a lot of energies coming together. Yeah.
Big life event. Yeah.
So fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know. Anything else we want to talk about? We're good for today?
Yeah. I feel fun. Thank you for celebrating and sharing and all of this with us. Both Cassie and I loved it. We love being able to jump on and share the day with you and be able to talk about it. And there's so much more goodness to come. Can't wait.
Yes. And I'm sure we'll be using wedding examples now a lot, which is fun.
That's true. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Go be awesome.
Thank you for joining us on the Manifest It Now show, where you learn how to leverage the law of attraction to manifest your dreams. Now that you're inspired, share the love and review us on iTunes. While you're there, remember to subscribe.